Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new career pathway series, Griz Paths. I am Jay Beagle. I am your event and outreach coordinator for the Alumni Association, and I will be the moderator for today's panel. I will start off with a few questions to open things up, but if anyone in the crowd has any questions, feel free to please drop those in the Q&A box. So I will get started by letting the panelists introduce themselves because I know you're all excited to hear from them. So panelists, if you want to briefly share your name, your current role, and what led you to a career in marketing.
Yeah, I can go first. My name is Zach Bauer. I currently work for an agency out of Chicago called Intersport, dealing with a lot of sport marketing and financial marketing, brand activations. How I got into my career in marketing might actually be reserved for a different question down the list here because it was kind of a drastic pivot. But I went from event management into marketing around 9-10 years ago.
Awesome. I'm Dayne Kuhlmann. I founded Victory Media about 8 years ago. I worked in the agency space before that. I had a background in both media buying and production, and so that's two of the three things we do at Victory, and just what we've grown here. We're based out of Liberty Lake, but we actually in April opened a satellite office in Missoula. So been over there a bunch and doing a lot of fun work over there.
Awesome, I can jump in. Hi, I'm Elle Amaya. I am a senior security partner marketing manager at Microsoft. I've been on this role now for over 4 years. Actually lived in Seattle, COVID hit. My husband and I were like, now or never. So we ended up moving back up to Kalispell, Montana. So I've been remote now for quite some time. How I got here, I still to this day not sure. I think that's the coolest part about your career is like, if you're open to the idea of pivoting and changing, like it'll take you to magical places. So happy to dive in deeper on my journey, but that's kind of how I landed and where I'm at now.
Great. Thank you. And did our fourth just pop in? Did I see? Emily, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was maybe a minute late joining.
Oh, you were all good.
Intros.
You want to give a brief introduction of yourself, obviously name, position, and what led you to a career in marketing?
Sure. Hi, I'm Emily Sly. I currently work at PopSockets. I'm head of brand and marketing. I spent about 13 years when I first started working at Crocs, and also spent some time working at Funko. So been in marketing most of the time, although I did start in a customer service role at Crocs and kind of worked my way up to VP of marketing. So been quite a journey, but happy to share a little bit about me and what that career path has looked like, at least from my side.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you for being here once again. We're really excited to hear from all of you. So once again, if anyone in the group has any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A and I will go ahead and ask those. But for now, I'll ask some of the questions that we have already. So what role did your education at the University of Montana play in preparing you for a career in marketing? If anyone wants to jump in, go for it.
I can jump in. So I actually kind of had a very untraditional way of getting into marketing. I actually started in events, and I was an intern at the Adams Center for my senior year. Really thought that that's where I want to be. Events kind of really took me into different places. I actually managed the Special Olympics of Montana back then through Adams Center, and from there was actually able to create like this amazing network of professionals early in my career that kind of gave me confidence, I would say, to like reach out and communicate with other people at that peer level. So I'd say if anything, the university just kind of opened up my confidence level. And I think even being in Missoula is super unique. Like it's a very cultural city and people, there's not this tier level that I kind of felt like when I lived in Seattle, like, you didn't talk to XYZ if they had a title or you didn't do this or that. So I don't know, I felt like University of Montana just kind of like set an even ball field for everybody, even if it's entry level or not entry level, everyone was willing to help each other.
Yeah, and I'll jump in. I will age myself a little bit, but when I went to school to have a Facebook account, you needed to have a umontana.edu email address. And so I remember being in school, and I wanted to be into production. That was really where a lot of my passion was in the video production side of things. And then I became a media buyer. But when I was in college, Google Ads were really just starting. And so I remember I had a professor that was like diving into Google Ads and talking about how this was the future. And nobody at that time understood what was going. And it was really neat because, they were diving into what the future of advertising was really before it became huge. And that kind of directed my path down more of the agency side than a production side. And so it was just that the teachers being adaptable to where the future is going and just willing to have conversations about the future of advertising. It's not just TV, radio, billboards, but there's this whole new world that is obviously overtaken us.
I can jump in, kind of piggybacking off of Ellie's comments. I didn't really know I was going to be in this position in marketing when I first graduated, first started out in all of this. I also was in event production, and at the university, I actually have my degree in graphic design. I found I was having a hard time with marketing some of the business degrees, so I went into graphic design thinking I would become a graphic designer, as well as using my event production skills to build and manage events. I co-owned a company called Royale Entertainment while I was in college at the university, and the university has, I don't know if they still do, but the UMEM Entertainment Management program. That was a huge deal for me. All my years at the university, working with Tom and Jerry and Mike Morelli, if he's still around, or if any of them are still around. But working so close with them on the UMEM as well as UM Productions really made me love like the production standpoint of events and just the building. Oh, great, good, he's still around. That's great. But yeah, when I graduated, I wasn't totally sure where I was going. I was going directly into event management, working with. I managed a alternative music venue in Portland, Oregon for a little while before making my actual pivot. But I found that coming from the UMEM curriculum and learning about all of that has become very helpful in marketing, especially experiential marketing, since we deal with like brand activations and live events more and more. And so that the university and like those specific curriculums like really helped me again with like confidence and focus to try and figure out like what I was actually good at. And it ended up a few years later after graduation being in the marketing field.
And I can jump into, so I did the MBA program at U of M, and I started right after undergrad, and I just felt like I always wanted to be in marketing. I love the idea of working in brand, but I wanted to better understand the way that business works in totality. So I think the education that I received there, it was great in a lot of ways. One, there was a lot of collaborative work that we did within the cohort that I was in. A lot of focus on entrepreneurship, which I really love. So it helped me, I think, be a more well-rounded marketer, better understanding the way that a business works and how to lead and management strategy and things like that. So in that way, it really helped set me up for success, I would say, when I started my career after U of M.
Great, thank you. So how did you land your first job or internship in marketing, and were there any unexpected turns?
Yeah, I harassed a whole bunch of agencies that I wanted to work for and brought them resumes and projects. And I took the first opportunity that said I could come in and do. So my junior year, after my junior year, I interned there the whole summer and then did projects there my senior year. But I was there initially just for production and creative. And then what I found was a lot of the things I was learning at Montana became very relevant in every department. So I went in on a very specific role to stay in that. And I ended up, probably wearing 20 hats at that agency and felt very, from a holistic perspective, like I felt like I could add value to the media team and to, different teams there, because I felt like the education we got was really holistic. And so I learned really quickly, there's really not just a role where you just wear one hat or you really specialize. Even if you're kind of a specialist, you wear dozens of hats. So even as an intern and first year employee at that agency, I wore at least 10 hats at any given time.
I had a very similar story, and I'll also date myself. So I graduated from U of M in 2009, which was the core of the recession. It was an awful time to be looking for a job. So I was really applying anywhere and everywhere that would accept a resume. I finally landed a job at Crocs in wholesale customer service, which was not the place that I wanted to start in, but really took advantage of that role to get involved in a company that I thought was really interesting, knowing that eventually I wanted to move into marketing. So it took me a couple of years to move from customer service into being the executive assistant for the first CMO there. But I would say it was not a great time to look for a job, but I really took advantage of every opportunity that I was given to really work my way into the place that I wanted to be. So even if you don't start necessarily where you want to be, some doors open and you gotta go in them and see where they take you.
Jumping in with that, my first jump into marketing was a few years after graduation. Prior to that, I managed a music venue in Portland, Oregon, and stayed pretty tight with the music and live music production scenes between Portland and Montana and a little bit in Washington, and eventually got really, really burnt out with the long nights, the egos, just everything that kind of is involved with live music and concerts and things like that. A lot of fun, but just really kind of sucks the life out of you after a while, and was really looking for a hard pivot, and reached out to an old buddy of mine from the university who did some UM/EM projects with us, who was working for an agency out of Boulder, Colorado called Match Marketing Group. And through a Hail Mary, emailed him, let him know I was trying to make a pivot from music and events to whatever he was doing, which looked very cool, which was event marketing. And so he was my first introduction into Experiential. And because of my very odd background coming from live events and like a creative degree, the agency found that very, very useful, being able to, to Dayne's point, wearing many hats and showing that, like, oh, you have a production hat, oh, you have a number crunching hat, you have all of these things. So they kind of, went out of their way to see if this old concert promoter would work for marketing, and I got hired on for their specific Adidas client. I was working just under Adidas Soccer and Adidas Lifestyle, doing all of their brand activations, and didn't expect myself to be there, but it's where I fell in love with marketing, was being able to bring live events to consumer facing crowds.
Yeah, and then I guess for mine's kind of like a I can't believe it happened to me kind of story. I mean, I'm kind of like Emily, like I always know I want to be in marketing, like everything. I love graphic design. If I could have been a graphic designer, I would have been it. Like I love brand, I love creativity. Like it's always been my realm. I remember when I graduated, I was like, I don't know what to do. I just started applying for jobs. I was applying to any job, anywhere, all over the country. I was like, submit, 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 submit. I, of course, like had a friend who knew somebody who was recruiting a marketing job in Seattle. And I'm like, oh, I live there. Like I live there, but I didn't live there. And I remember interviewing for the job and them being like, so can you start in 2 weeks from today? And I'm thinking, oh shit, like I actually don't live in Seattle. I'm still in Missoula, and I need to pack up my whole life in 10 days, move to Seattle, pretend I'm living there, because of course this is still a time like virtual work was not a thing. So like if you didn't live there, like they weren't looking at you. So I had changed my resume saying I was living there. So I started a company called Radius, jumped in. They were like, hey, we market B2B marketing, talk about big data, DevOps, cloud security. Like, are you ready to go? I'm like, wait, sorry, what's big data? What's DevOps? What's cloud security? Like I had no technical background, like technical, like very technical. And I remember like sitting with engineering, and they're like, we need to help marketing with sales. Like you're going to be our person. And I'm thinking like, I know nothing. So I remember the first year out of school, like not only was I going to work 40 hours a week, but on the back end, like I was learning every technical piece of anything that I could. And like through that journey, like obviously, like I'm here today to like say, my effort really made it through. Like I am in cybersecurity marketing now, which is crazy, because cybersecurity marketing was not even a thing like 4 years ago. But I think like when you ask like unexpected turns, like the best advice I can give everybody and anybody is like expect a lot of no's. And I think that's like what we don't talk about like early in career is like no's are actually good things. Like I actually interviewed with a pretty prestigious company last round of interviews, and I sat down halfway through the interview and was like, you know what? I actually don't think I'd be happy here. Like, I think we are so focused on our careers of like, this is the job, this is the goals. But then when you get into it and you're like, actually, these aren't my people, this isn't my community. Like, I had a lot of no's, and a lot of no's actually turned into the pivot I am now. Like, where I've had jobs, I was told no, and then 6 months later, that whole team got laid off. Like, it's serendipity. But I think that's just like for everyone here and everyone joining, like expect the no's. And I think that's something that we're not prepared for going through school. And so no's equals yeses eventually, but I just would guide everybody on that.
Great. That was some wonderful insight all the way around. So what are some key marketing skills that are in high demand today, and how can students or early professionals develop these skills?
I mean, I'll jump in and say getting ahead of AI is probably a big deal right now. I myself am not ahead of AI, and I feel like I'm missing out on a day-to-day basis, not implementing it as usefully or as well as I could. My wife is fully integrated with AI. She has her emails, her organizer, everything is going through an AI filter right now, and her life it's very chaotic, but it is also very streamlined because she knows exactly how she's doing. She decided to put in all the research into ChatGPT, HubSpot, and all these other platforms, making them communicate to each other. And now she's responding to clients and management in record time and just acing everything. Obviously, there's caveats that come with AI, such as proofreading and hallucinations and things like that. But being aware of what to look for and also being kind of the go-to person for this, I think, is a real big deal right now in marketing. It's just very valuable from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I can jump in. Being at Microsoft and being on the bleeding edge of AI, like in all our products, I don't know if you guys have seen it, like in Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, like if we're not using it, like we're irrelevant. I think to Zach's point, like you got to learn how to adapt and work with it. And I think like, at least for myself working with AI, I'll never forget my RIT 101 class. It's like, you need a shitty draft. And I think like AI really helps us help with those shitty drafts is like, you can prompt something like, I need to write a newsletter or I need to write an email to such and such about XYZ, and it'll create that for you. But to Zach's point, like you need empathy and human touch and all these things. So I don't necessarily think you're like the job of marketing is going away. It'll always be there. But I think you need to figure out how to utilize it and utilize it in the correct way. And like, I think that's what's really cool about marketing with AI too, is like the agility, like to get things spin up, like and more probably just with Microsoft, like things take 6 months, which is just crazy. But like for small businesses that don't have the workforce to, send a newsletter, send emails, or come up with a marketing campaign or a marketing calendar, like I really see AI and new hires and new early in career people be able to accelerate these small businesses to move faster and like do better things. So that's really where I see kind of the future with AI. I know that wasn't the question, but I know it's a hot topic like in our industry right now, like where things are going.
Yeah, and I think that there's, some things that are also going to become more relevant with AI. I mean, there's all the tools, all the software is coming out at record pace in every single industry. But I would say some of the human stuff, like the storytelling and creativity, really leaning into that. Even we do quarterly gifts and meetings with our clients. And for our last set, we have somewhere between 35 and 45 clients. We wrote handwritten notes. And we had multiple feedback from people like they hadn't seen a handwritten note in so long, and it just felt so human. And it was just like, that's not feedback you would have got 5 years ago. It just would have been like, oh, it's a handwritten note. So I also think leaning into like AI is going to bring a lot of velocity in so many areas, but like look at some of the areas where it's going to leave a void. And I think, the storytelling, the human element, some of that stuff that AI is not going to do, like how can you still lean into that? Because that will be a differentiator. I think as AI, it's that convergence of technology, and it really levels the playing field in many, many industries. So what are those things that you can do to elevate yourself? Which may seem super old school, but like people will crave old school. People will crave like authentic storytelling.
I would totally agree on the creativity piece of it, because AI has replaced a lot of things, but creativity, I think, is at the core of what makes us human. And in marketing, it's always super important to be able to marry data and creativity together to tell stories. I would also say, like, just in the experience of my whole career, the one thing that doesn't change is that there's always change. So the way that people consume media will change, where people get information from will change. So just as the dynamics of like how people communicate and engage with each other, marketing will always be evolving. So like I remember the moment at which like it was the first time that we at Crocs had ever worked with influencers before, and it seemed so new and novel, to now fast forward where you can engage with hundreds and even thousands of TikTok creators in a week and activate them at scale. So I think things are always changing. You just got to be on top of it and be super curious around that. Because if you get too stuck in any one thing, like it's going to change in a couple of weeks or months. And especially today, just the pace of that change is really fast. So just be ready to evolve.
I would just add on to like when you think about the growth of marketing, I think marketing is an industry that's never going away. I never see a world where it's never going away. Marketing is like a horizontal, like you're not in finance where, you're just crunching numbers in Excel all day and that's all you're doing. Like, you could be a marketer for finance, you could be a marketer for customer success, you could be a marketer for internal employees. Like there's always a space for marketers. And I just don't see a world in the future, regardless of AI. I think it's more of an agility conversation, but I think the broad span of what type of marketer you want to be, like there's so many options. And I think that's what's so cool about like being in this career path is like you can pivot from events, you could do behind like internal stuff, you can do external stuff. So just adding on to the question.
Yeah, marketing is a very broad discipline, and there's a million directions that you could go. You're creative or a data scientist or just a lot of different things. So marketing's fun for that reason, because you can play and you can explore different areas, which are all very different.
Great. So moving on, for students or alums considering different marketing roles, brand, digital, content, etc., how should they explore and decide what fits them best?
I can jump in here. Oh, go for it. You go.
I was just gonna say, I think it's just experiencing them. I think jumping in, don't be like committed to what you're going to do right away is what you're going to do forever. So I think finding internship opportunities. When I started Victory, I reached out to 20 people in the community that were business owners, marketers, and just like, can I bring you to coffee? And of those 20 people, 4 people responded and said yes. And of those 4 people, 4 of them are still some level of mentor today and in different spaces. And, just asking them like, what's their day-to-day look like? What are things that they see coming? And it's been great having that mentorship, but it also kind of helped direct me into like what people are looking for in an agency. So when you're building an agency or building a career, it helps give you some direction of people that are forward and in the thick of it.
Yeah, and my like line to you is take risk. Like I think early in career, like this is the only time in your life that you can take a risk. Like no one's relying on yourself but yourself. And I think like as you get further on into your career, it's harder to take risks, like things are more at jeopardy. So like if I had to give any advice to anybody, like take the risk. You never know what's going to happen. And I think what's cool in this day and age that at least I didn't have 10 years ago was like there's so many resources to learn, free resources. Like LinkedIn Learning has their whole like plethora of stuff where you can go and you can learn and you can, talk to different people and connect with people. Like I just think things are at your fingertips now. And you have like the communities here and the communities online that like we didn't, all of us on the panel, I'm at least speaking for myself, like I didn't have access to and I didn't know how to leverage them. So that's what I would give for my answer for that.
I think just
Yeah.
being curious and similar, very similar to the comments before, but being willing to say yes and try different things. And I would say, having gone from working in consumer insights and market research to creative production to global brand strategy, like social media influencers, PR, all of these things I think help you become more well-rounded, and you can find the spaces in which you were really good at and other areas which you just might find interesting. But again, like that's what's fun about marketing as a career path and a discipline, because these things are connected to each other, but there's enough variety in there that I would say just explore and see where your strengths are, see what you're interested in, see what gets you curious and hungry to work. But I've been really fortunate in that I've got to wear a lot of different hats, but all of those things end up coming together and make you a better marketer at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Just echoing off of all of that, it really is, at least for me, it was a trial and error kind of deal. Just seeing what works, saying yes to as many things as you can, getting involved with as many different things as you can. One thing I found I was doing, a little bit later in my career when I was job hopping or job searching, whatever you want to call it, is I would look around, like, just go online or see like a big activation that's happened. Like Activision just did something crazy for Call of Duty, or Paramount just did this really cool screening event for whatever movie that's coming out. And I like to be like, who did that? And then find out like what agency did that and see like what their expertise is, whether it's digital, out of home, anything like that. And that's where I'm applying to, sending in things that are interesting to me. But these agencies, like the umbrella for marketing is so broad. Like I consider myself an event producer before a marketing professional, but they are one and the same if you're at the right agency.
Great. Moving on. Can you talk about a mentor or networking opportunity that made a significant difference in your career?
I can jump in again here. I'm gonna call out Mike Morelli again in UMEM. Had the opportunity to be a part of the core UMEM kids that got to go to Polestar. I don't know if that's something that's still happening with UMEM, but got to go to Polestar, and it's a huge networking event. You're in front of agencies, you're in front of producers, talent, all of these things, and it's also a giant party, more or less. And so if you're a college student going to these things, it's really hard to stay focused and try and get to all the seminars you want to go to, and not just have fun. And at one point I had Mike Morelli take me under his arm and told me I was having a little too much fun, and kind of gave me a very big come to Jesus talking to, right next to the owner of Golden Voice at that time. And it was just very impactful to me. Like, this is a big fun event for everyone, but at the same time, it is still, everyone here is still a professional, and like no matter like what's happening at the bar or what's happening in the courtyard or whatever, everyone is still still very buttoned up and dialed in, and everything is for the sake of these network connections. And I, at one point, I think all of us that were on that trip was losing sight of that. But yeah, Mike really kind of gave me a stern talking to at that time, and it's been 10 years since we've had that conversation, and I still think about it now of like, it's time to get your shit together. And if you're surrounded by all of these amazing things, why are you not taking advantage of it, is what Morelli kind of mentioned to me. And that's, anytime I'm in a networking event or things like that, I try to just kind of keep his words in the back of my head and go after everything that I'm there for. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was amazing. That did.
Yeah, I'll say you never know. You never want to take an opportunity for granted. You never know who you're meeting with and where they'll go. And not saying you should look at all relationships like, where can this take me? But I think in the business world and the marketing world, you meet so many people. And sometimes when you're just out of college and just into a role you're just thinking about right now, but really having a long-term long-term situation where, you make friends, you make relationships that may just be friends and relationships that could turn into something years down the road. And I met with the executive director of a nonprofit here. He just asked if we could meet for coffee, and he could pick my brain on marketing, and I could give him a plan, and, was happy to do that. I love being able to find ways to just like help people so they can help their business, and especially nonprofits, because, they're usually lacking resources. I was happy to do it. And then he said, also, I just took a position with a really large auto group, basically, and want you to come in as an agency. And we didn't, and are you guys taking on clients? And it was very serendipitous. The week before, we had parted ways with our auto client. We only have one client per industry, the way we work. And it was just like this relationship that I was just trying to give value, which I think that should be an intention of any networking, is like, what value can I add to this conversation? What value can I add to this person? But almost, the universal rule is when you're adding value to people, the value comes added back. And that was 7 years ago. They've been one of our strongest clients ever since then. And there was zero business development in that relationship. There was just a connection over a period of time. And so that's kind of been our process, and in our culture, is just meet and add value with people, and it works out.
I'm like a deeply introverted person, and so the idea of like formal networking like makes me sweat, and I hate it. So I've always struggled in how to like push myself to do that. And I've been really fortunate, and I've worked hard too to establish relationships with different bosses that I've had that became mentors, or even reaching out to people within the company that I really admired and felt like there was something special, or I liked their approach. So I think like, even if you don't like doing it, because some of us really don't, make the effort to make connections, because it is important. And especially you get to a certain phase in your career, and having relationships with people at different companies who can give you advice or who can help coach you, or people that have given you tough love and taught you new things. Like it's really, really important. And I think you have to make an effort. You got to push yourself outside of your comfort zone to do that sometimes. And then when you get to a certain place, how do you give back, and how do you find, the people that are working really hard that could use some extra guidance that you can mentor. And I think, Dayne, like you said, like add some value to is super important. But for me, like one of the life lessons is like, even though it's uncomfortable, like push yourself to network and to make those connections, because it really does matter, especially the longer that you're in your career. And I've had some really amazing mentors, like whether it was from a business sense that just got it and could push beyond what everybody thought was possible, to people that were just really good leaders and great with people. So I've been fortunate, and have also sought out just a bunch of different people that I could learn from in some way or another.
Yeah, and I mean, I can echo to all those things that everyone's saying. I mean, to me, there's not a moment in time where like I had this amazing mentor, this amazing network. Like every day is a mentoring and network day for me. Like, I think that's the coolest part about even being in such a versatile role that I'm in, is like I've never had a job where I've applied and then got the job. It's always been a referral, like for every job I've had. And it's literally been probably 4 jobs in the last 10 years where, somebody who knows somebody, and you own your brand. I think that's like, it's not just a network of how you talk to other people, but how you present yourself, and like own your brand, and like own what you're good at, and like express that to other people, and like lean into the people like they're doing really good work on certain things, and learn from them, and kind of just like keep iterating on your network. Like there's people in my network that aren't in marketing, that are in a different industry, but like I learn from them, because you never know what you can adapt and adopt into the life that you have now.
Awesome. Well, I feel like this next question we've kind of touched a little bit on already, but how can one build a genuine connection with professionals in the industry?
I think Zach kind of nailed it. Just keep messaging them. I mean, even this panel is a really interesting one, and I know I talked to Jay about this, but it's like, how do you even find my information for me to be on the panel? Like, I'm still like pondering like how, but like you just never know until you ask. And I think that's just like advice for all, is like you never know until you ask. You're gonna get a lot of no's, but there's gonna be a lot of yeses, and like that's what I would say, like in profession. Like if you want to message somebody, like don't be intimidated, because the person on the other end might be like floored that you even considered them. to be a part of like the question. So
Yeah, I think that's about right. It goes into, also being introverted myself. I hate networking, but I've never regretted networking. It has always been super beneficial. It has always come in handy at the end of the day. You never know who you're going to need for what random job, event, or next career path for yourself, and making those connections and um, just getting involved any way you can. Like no one, at least again talking from my own perspective, no one likes cold calling or cold messaging anyone. It sucks. No one also likes to be cold messaged out of nowhere by a random person unless there's some like connecting tissue there, like coming from like the university, or coming from a lover of the same genre of things that this person is. Like I always try, if I'm doing cold outreach to someone, is to try and find that like connective tissue of my wants and their career as well, to just slightly open that door a little bit more and let them know I'm not here just to get my networking connection and get out, but I'm here to also turn that networking connection into a relationship.
Anything else to add there? I'll move on if there's not. So what are some ways you can continue learning and staying current in the marketing world?
I think there's a lot of experimentation and just doing things. There's research and numbers and analytics that you can look at that might show a direct path, but like I think if you're executing marketing, sometimes it's a matter of just experimentation. And man, like, is a podcast going to work for this industry? Maybe. Who knows? Let's try it. Like being willing to try to see if that fits. Or even creative campaigns. I think some of our most successful campaigns were ones where we really just, the idea sounded absolutely insane when we thought it the first time. That's kind of when you knew like, yeah, this is actually a good idea. So I think just having, I don't know if courage is the right word, but just like the sense to like try the crazy stuff and see what works. You can read all the marketing books, all the Harvard business books, but some of the most insane successes I've seen in marketing is when you get outside the box and you do crazy stuff. But with the crazy stuff, like stuff you're going to fall on your face, and that's okay, because there's value to learning that doesn't work, and there's value to just trying. So I know like the adage is falling forward or failing forward. And so I think don't be scared in trying or doing something, and just learning from it and moving on.
Yeah, I do feel like this industry is a lot of experimentation, a lot of trying to see what works. And, sometimes you do fall flat and find out that in fact did not work. And so you just change and pivot from the next one. But at least for me, trying to stay current or staying ahead, LinkedIn has honestly been pretty valuable as far as following other people and career path, following other agencies, kind of just seeing what the competition is up to, seeing what everyone else is up to. It's how I find out about like new tech being available in the space. Paying attention to award ceremonies as well. There's a dozen different marketing award ceremonies that happen every year, and kind of seeing who are like the leading agencies that are there and finding out like what they're doing, what's new on their plate. And I'm coming from the past at this point, trying to just like stay on top of what these winning activations are doing. But at the same time, it's all very valuable knowledge to figure out like, maybe my idea wasn't the best idea. And all of a sudden there's two agencies that have found a way to incorporate like tech into whatever this idea you're thinking of is, and kind of seeing what the competition is up to, or if you don't want to call it competition, just seeing what everyone else is up to in your sphere.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work at like big, pretty well-known consumer brands. And what I always find to be really interesting, and you'll find this if you go into marketing, is there's a lot of conversations you have internally where no one is talking about the consumer that's actually buying your product or that you're trying to speak to. So my advice on kind of staying up to date in marketing is like, don't forget about the consumer and what the world is that they're experiencing, and whether that means you create a new social handle where you intentionally craft an algorithm that's going to show you something that your target consumer would like. But I think just don't forget that you're talking to people, you're talking to human beings. And it's amazing how often that gets forgotten when you get inside and you start working on all the campaigns and all the work that you got to do. So I think just staying curious, staying connected to your consumer, just helps you become a better marketer and kind of pushes you to stay ahead of what's going on and what people care about. So.
Yeah, and I would just add, which I feel like I'm kind of echoing, is like, if you're not learning, you're not growing. And I feel like that's just the industry we're in. Like, there's never been a point in history where data has meant so much. And I think as a marketer, like, I think I spend more time in data sometimes. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm a data scientist, to be quite frank, than I am a marketer, because every muscle and every movement that a consumer makes or a person makes, like, we make change. Like, we literally learn quick and fail fast, like, is like our motto here, is like, you have to learn to be adaptable. And I think that's just a muscle you learn over time. Like, there's been projects in my career where I'm like, this was supposed to be successful. Like, how do you measure success? And I think if I reflect on those things that failed, it's like they actually were a success, because it taught me for the next thing that I went and did. And I got to have more agility, and like I learned lessons from things like different campaigns that I ran. And I'm like, why did no one do this? Why did no one do that? It's like you have intentions, but then you just get to look at the data and figure out where it failed, and you get to learn and retry again. And I think that's a really cool thing about being a marketer, is you're always an entrepreneur. I think that's one thing that I probably more so love about marketing, is, as much as I want to dream of a world where I could be an entrepreneur, I think marketing gives me that creativity where I can be an entrepreneur and I am thinking outside of the box on certain things. And then I get to go deploy it, and then I get to see if it's successful or not, and then I get to restart. I think we're not rocket scientists here in this industry, and I have to remind myself when I get really passionate about a project. But I think, like, words of wisdom is like, be okay with failure, but like get back up and keep going, because, you know, just because it didn't happen the first time, it might happen the second time.
Those were some really good answers. So I just had a question come in from the group. So this is prepare yourself. So outside of your own company or brand, what is a brand you think is really standing out right now? And what do you think they're especially doing well?
Might need a minute on my end, but
It's a biased answer.
Totally.
Like, myself, I don't know. I think it's just,
This
it
is always,
depends.
this is the toughest question for marketers to answer, and I don't know why, but I see this happen all the time. I'll give you a couple that I follow. One, who I heard the founder speak at a conference just recently, but Poppy, like bringing soda back, they, interestingly enough, have invested no money in performance marketing, which in the world of marketing is like a very, very hot topic today. So I think it's just amazing how they were able to build a brand, really leaning into creativity without using performance, which is super interesting. Also, another brand that does a lot of super creative things, like Vacation Sunscreen, is one of my absolute favorites, because they break every single rule when it comes to copywriting that you could ever imagine. Like, you'd be told 100 times not to do all the things that they do, but it's so smart, it's so creative, and I think has really helped them become successful. It's awesome to see them like on the shelves at Target. So I think you got to be paying attention to what all these brands are doing. But for marketers, for some, I don't know what reason this is, but that's always a very difficult question to answer. I think because like a million things come into your head at once, so it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
like I
think-
pointed, I was just gonna point out, like, that's what's so unique about marketing, is like Emily's in consumer, I'm in B2B marketing, we have people in event marketing. Like, your purview of what you see and what you're attentive to is just so siloed sometimes. So yeah, when you take a step back and you look at everything, you're like, everyone's doing great. Like, I'm buying the products, or like I'm doing XYZ. So
now that we got some examples going, sorry, Dayne.
No, do
Mine's
it.
super quick. Liquid Death is my answer. I'm obsessed with their marketing. I get a laugh out of them every single time. Everything they do is just mildly offensive or also thought-provoking, but like it's always grabbing attention somewhere. And I think what they're doing is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, that's my vote. It's very different from the standard cookie cutter stuff you see every day. And so the stuff that is edgy like that sticks out to me, because that's what I look for, honestly. But yeah, just the weirder it is, the more I'm inclined to remember it.
Yeah, I think the tricky part of this question is because like fundamentally, if someone fundamentally does marketing right, might not be memorable. It's always the ones that like break the status quo and get out of the box. And that's why I think, the bravery and being the one willing to do that will make the most successful campaigns. You can look at sports leagues as a lot of, good litmus tests, like what the NHL and like what golf are doing right now. Like they're trying to just be different than the other leagues and changing their events and changing like their all-star game and how their viral strategies. And, but from a brand perspective, I think that's what's key is because if you looked fundamentally, what is the greatest campaign that gets you excited? Yeah, it's either the products you buy, but it's usually those ones that are outside the box, like Liquid Death. What a crazy, conundrum of a brand, but it, instantly grabs your attention and instantly just, brings you into that product.
All right. Well, I only have one more question left. So if there's no others from the group, I'm going to ask that. So if you could go back and give your student self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Mine's pretty easy again. Like I said, I have my degree in graphic design. I did not get a degree in marketing. I actively decided not to, and I kick myself for that every day. I love that I have a graphic design degree, but if I could tell myself, like, go back and see through, like, go back in and get that marketing and go back in and dive back into business, you'll be a lot better off than you are now, or a little more organized than you are now. And staying with, honestly, everything that I was involved in at was incredibly beneficial. And my advice would have just been to dive even further into those things like EM and productions.
Anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have two things. And this is specific to me, but like when I graduated, like what I was looking for, and I think I was in my 23-year-old brain, I was looking for like money and comfort. But one of the things that's on my wall is like money isn't the only currency. Relationships, trust, things like that. There's a lot of currencies where it's not all about money. It's about finding those right spots and about finding fulfillment, and then also like finding ways to be uncomfortable and like literally seeking out discomfort. Because to be successful, like you're going to go through so much discomfort. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like you're going to call 1 million people to get jobs or clients to get clients, and you're going to hear so many no's, and you're going to go through campaigns that fail. And so I think the more prepared you are to find like an experience discomfort and to just like be resilient through that is a great skill set. So I wish I would have known that. I definitely learned that like, through, I had my university school of, my degree. And then I had the school of hard knocks where you learn like the world is going to put you in just uncomfortable situations, and you just need to be resilient and rise through those.
I feel like there's so many things I would have told myself back then, but I don't know if I'd be the same individual I am today. I think that's like, we put so much pressure on wishing we knew. But I like, even to Zach, like as he was telling a story, I'm like, but would you have changed it? Like, look at you now, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you could kick yourself for not getting an A on an exam, or, not barely passing a class. Like I was a C student, like hand raised C student. Like I love who I am because of that. I think I worked harder for the things that I wanted in my life because I always knew I was average. And so when I had opportunity to be better than average, like I just pushed forward. And I think you just got to find like the things that motivate you. And there will be times where, you fail. I think we've talked about that a lot on the call, but like a job is a relationship. And I know I alluded to this at the beginning of the call, but like you'll find your people and you'll find your company and you'll find what you're doing good at. And when you're not good at it, like you just sit, reevaluate, and find something better. Like I think everyone's successful on this call in different ways. And, we had different ways of getting to where we're at. But I think if I told my younger self that, like I would have given myself more patience. I think as we probably all would have, like, you never know what you don't know. And I think I thought I knew it all. I mean, like, and I, and Hard Knocks, like, I'm laughing at that comment because it's so true. Like, people push you down, people lift you up, and it's just the way of life. And I don't know if I was prepared for my journey at 22 years old. Like, I had to move to Seattle in 10 days. I didn't know what that meant. And I just made it happen. Like, you got to take risk and you got to be open to and be flexible with what's coming your way because you never know. You never know who's going to get your next job. Never know.
All right. Is that
I might have had one more bit of advice to add.
okay?
Super simple. Send the thank you email. That's my one thing of advice. I actually, I lost out on a really good job opportunity with Crocs actually a few years ago, and it was specifically told it was because I did not send a thank you follow-up email. And it has been driven into me to always follow up at the end of whatever conversation you're having with a potential employer, a networking thing, like always make sure you have the last word with a thank you.
Great. Well, if that is all the questions we have for the day, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all to everyone that was. Oh, that's a thank you in the chat. So thanks everyone for being here, and a huge thank you to Ellie and Emily, Zach, and Dayne for taking time out of your day to speak with us. That was so very insightful. If anyone here is interested, next month we will be back with a cybersecurity panel. And yeah, have a great day. Go Griz.